Hi everyone, Richard here with an overview of my new Google Workspace add-on, Assessment Tracker. Assessment Tracker is designed to help you collect all of your assessment data into a centralized Google shared drive for analysis later. So there are two roles in Assessment Tracker. One is the admin and the other role is a teacher role. I'm going to go over both of those roles and the different functions each role has in using the add-on. So let's begin. I'm currently in the admin account for the add-on. And when I say admin account, this could be any person in your school. This person would have the ability to sort of deploy the setup. So the setup works as like this. In your Google shared drive, you'll want to create a brand new shared drive, and then you would copy that ID of that shared drive, and you would just paste it here, and then click Set up my shared drive now. What that triggers is the creation of this folder and then 3 Google Sheets inside of that folder that all play a role in how this ties together. You will also notice that below there is a reset option. So this is available to you should you install it a second time, because that will then take the configuration of the add-on. So if you may want to restore the original configuration, and to do that you would simply click on your original config file, collect that ID of that file, and then you would paste it into here and then hit reset. And what this does, it gets your configuration back to using the rosters that were created here, your Data Studio Google Sheet here, and your configuration file there. So that's what that's there for. As an admin, you'll also have daily access to how many days remain in your subscription. Feel free to reach out to me to set up a generous free trial just to see if this is something you'd like to try. But the information related to purchasing it is available here. And then I've listed some of the features as an overview of what you can do while you're in the document. So as an admin, let's jump back into this config file. Notice how the sheet here is protected. So this means that I'm the only person who can make edits to any data that is in this sheet. And once you have a copy of your sheet, you'll be adding all of your assessments in the assessment column and all of the class sections that you have in your class into the classes column. So the reason for this is to make sure all of the assessment data goes to the proper assessment tab, and when filtering your classes and making rosters, you're only creating rosters for the group of kids that you are assessing. So that is the config file. All of the other data in here will be filled in automatically. And F2, this is where when you create a Data Studio dashboard that goes with this data, you would replace the URL that is there, and there's a button on the add-on to take you into the dashboard. This is the Data Studio sheet. So this is closely linked to the config sheet, which we just talked about. In fact, let me bring that back open again. So you'll notice how the assessments here are linked to the names of the tabs on the bottom, right? So if I'm going to add a new assessment, I want to add it here. And then in my Data Studio tab, I'll launch the add-on. And all I have to do is click this button, and it'll recognize that there's a new assessment to add. And it'll create that new assessment in my tabs. Now, What's really important about this one is so often in data entry, we want to be able to control how data is entered. So row 2 of the Data Studio sheet also will copy over any data validation. So in this example, I've renamed one of the metrics to term, and I created a data validation right below it so I could enter fall, winter, or spring. So this setup will carry over to the future templates that are generated, as you'll see soon. So that's that. Now we'll go into the third Google Sheet, which is the Rosters tab as an admin once again. And as an admin, I have the ability to add a new roster, and I highly recommend when doing this is that you do it by academic year. So I have one for 2021, 2022. If I want to get ready for next year, I'm going to make it look like this, 2022, 23, add a roster. This will create a new tab and all of the fields that we need to fill in. And then from your student information system, you can copy and paste that roster information in there. So let's just, in the interest of speeding this up, I'm just going to copy over the data from the previous year. Okay. So that is the roster data. So now if you open a Google Sheet that is not the roster, config, or data studio sheet, you'll be presented with a new screen in the add-on. So I'm going to launch the add-on in this blank sheet. And this is where we can build our templates. As you can see from the config file, all of our assessments are listed here under the type assessment. So let's say we want to build a SOPA assessment for the 21-22 school year roster, and we only want the kids who are in class 5A. I click build the template now. What this does is prepare my Google Sheet to enter data. And as you can see, we had just talked about the data validation piece. So all of the data validation piece is here in term 1 carried over. And then I would simply enter any data that I needed to link to the dashboard. I'd put this all in here. And again, these metrics are determined from the Data Studio sheet. So you would no longer see metric 2 if you change the name of the SOPA assessment for metric 2 to something else. And once we've filled in all of our data, right from the same add-on screen, we can submit this data to our tracker, in other words, to the Data Studio sheet. So I'm going to hit submit. And as a visual indicator, everything turns red. All right. So because this data could just be in your own Google Drive and not in a shared drive, it's letting you know that, oh yeah, you did submit this data, because you could be keeping track of this over several days, but this should help you determine, oh yeah, I did submit that data. So if we look at the Data Studio sheet, we can see, we've just added, and I've done this before, so that's why it looks like as a duplicate, but that was just a previous submission I'd done. So we've added the data here. So that is essentially the view and the functions of the admin. If we slide on over to what it looks like for a teacher, again, I'm in the exact same shared Google Drive. Now, as an admin, you would need to make sure all of your teachers are a member of that shared drive. That controls all of the permissions for this. So if I launch the add-on here, you'll notice that there's no subscription information or the ability to run a new setup. There's just a link to what eventually will be your dashboard when you build it. And if I go into the config file as a teacher, right? I'm trying to type on my keyboard now, but I can't edit this, right? So this was, again, designed only editable by the admin. If we open up the Data Studio tab from a teacher view, again, this actually is editable. So there's just a message here to say, this is your assessment data file. Do not edit. It has to be editable because in order for teachers to submit data to your Google Sheet, they need to be able to edit it. So there's just a warning to not perform any edits there. And then the same goes for the roster piece. So if you launch this here while in the roster tab, it says this is your roster data. This should only be edited by an admin. So again, teachers could edit this because they would need that power to be able to filter the roster data to just display their students. So those are those warnings there. And similar to the way I showed you in the admin account, a teacher can simply create a new Google Sheet and in their own drive and submit data to the tracker in exactly the way that I showed it to you. So I hope you like the features in this, and feel free to reach out to me to set up your free trial. I know it takes time to get data into this to really evaluate it, so I can give you a fair amount of time to try it out and see if this is something you'd like to stick with long term. Thanks for watching. Bye.